It's not uncommon for those being abused to go onto social media and try to get help for themselves. But what happens when someone fakes being a victim just for attention? Well, that is the story we'll be discussing today. Don't believe everything you hear on the internet. As tired of advice that is, it's worth re-emphasizing because of how gullible many users of social media, particularly Twitter, appear to be. Today we're going to be discussing how that naivety was exploited by those in the pursuit of sympathy, money, and their 15 minutes of fame. Our tale begins with a young woman by the name of Kara Alongi from Clark, New Jersey, whose profile was no different than what you'd expect from someone her age. However, the 16-year-old's account would receive global attention when on September 30th, 2012, she tweeted that there was someone in her house and begged for her followers to call 911. Within a few hours, her call for help went viral, with it receiving over 34,000 retweets. But perhaps more impressive was how that presence was felt by local authorities, with the Clark Police Department receiving over 6,000 phone calls concerning the case within a 12-hour time span. Soon the hashtag #HelpFindKara began trending on the site worldwide, as her page reached the 1,000 follower milestone overnight. As Kara's story became a social media sensation, law enforcement began seriously investigating the case. Due to the sheer amount of callers, a lot of time and resources were wasted investigating false tips and leads. Regardless, they persevered through all the evidence and began to piece together what exactly was going on, and the conclusions they were coming to were unexpected to say the least. As more police began to understand the young lady's movements that day, the more suspicious they became of her Twitter story. Firstly, upon going to her residence, they could find no signs of foul play. On top of this, police discovered that the teen was dropped off by a taxi at a nearby train station all by herself. In talking to the cab driver, they learned that the service was called specifically for her address at approximately the same time the tweet had been published. Despite the ominous last message that the internet was going crazy over, they realized the facts didn't align with her statement. And these inconsistencies were enough for them to realize this was probably not a kidnapping, but a teen runaway. Even though her tweets were blowing up, it's unknown if Kara understood the can of worms that she had opened, as she had left her cell phone at home. As a result, she likely didn't realize while on the run she had become the most worried about girl on the World Wide Web. Because of this, she also likely didn't witness just how quickly public opinion turned on her, as those same supporters began to realize it had all been a hoax, as police shared their findings to quell the onslaught of calls. Regardless of her knowledge of events, Kara wouldn't back down from her claims of kidnapping, as the teen reappeared the next day in an attempt to rejuvenate interest by calling authorities herself to fabricate more details of the supposed kidnapping.
Sir?
Yeah.
I have a 16-year-old online stated she was abducted from her home in Clark, New Jersey.
And where exactly are you saying that he took you from?
My house.
Do you have any description of him or a name?
I don't know his name, but he was black and he said he was like 28.
Police were able to convince the teenager to forfeit her location, where she revealed she was at a local Burger King restaurant calling from one of the employees' cell phones. They eventually sent an officer while on call to retrieve the runaway, and finally, Kara came home. While her parents were relieved that she was returned safe, law enforcement was less than thrilled. From the resources spent investigating the thousands upon thousands of phone calls to the amount of man-hours spent by detectives on the case, Kara's stunt had cost them thousands of dollars and wasted valuable time that could have been spent elsewhere. As a result, she faced a third-degree charge of falsely alarming the public, as well as a fourth-degree charge of making a false report to authorities. Nearly a year after the tweet that started it all, Kara pleaded guilty. You'd think with the trouble Kara found herself in, it would stop anyone else from faking their kidnapping online, but this is sadly not the case. We'll learn more about this after a brief word from our sponsor. Have you ever tried to trim your nether regions and it turned into a Freddy Krueger film? Well, luckily Manscaped is here to save the day. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you know that I'm a huge fan of their Performance Package Kit, which is the world's first all-in-one men's grooming kit that makes trimming the hedges efficient and easy. But now I'm excited to share that Manscaped just released a new in-shower solution specifically designed for men. The new Ultra Premium Body Wash. After you cleanse properly with the body wash, you can then grab the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. This waterproof body trimmer will allow you to shave when your skin is soft and properly prepped for trimming. So to try these products out for yourself, go to manscaped.com and use promo code MARS for 20% off your order plus free shipping. Despite our next story taking place nearly a decade later, the two cases being covered in today's video are so eerily similar that it shows just how little the general public has learned from believing social media users at face value. On February 17th, 2021, an Instagram account called One Sweet Potatoes posted a video to their story that caused a wave of panic to spread across the world. The dimly lit footage appears to show a distressed woman frantically describing an individual implied to be her captor. She characterizes the aggressor as a tall, middle-aged Latino male, before pleading that she was in the basement and that he could be back at any second. The victim in this video was identified as Sai, a Cincinnati resident who made a name for herself in the past for her endeavors into amateur modeling. Due to its concerning content, the upload was reposted to Twitter asking the public for help and to spread awareness. While a few users were skeptical, the circumstances made it far more concerning. You see, Sai was both African American as well as transgender, a group with a statistically higher risk of facing violence than the general public. As a result, it seemed too much of a risk to not take seriously, causing the post to quickly go viral, with the video itself receiving millions upon millions of views. Soon the hashtags #FindSai and HelpSai became the #1 trending subjects worldwide, and hundreds of thousands of strangers came together in order to investigate the bizarre circumstances. This included the sharing of a GoFundMe that Sai had created in the past, which accumulated over $50,000 as a result of her newfound virality. This also entailed a multitude of calls to law enforcement, who were unreceptive, much to the dismay of Twitter. Not viewing the video as being a legitimate concern, they simply told callers that after a brief investigation, they determined that there was nothing they could do, because Sai was a legal adult, and she had the right to withhold her location from the public. This response confused and frustrated many, with some accusing the police department of being transphobic. But as time went on, this case would become more clear. Throughout all of this internet outrage, Twitter detectives began to notice some rather suspicious behavior on Sai's behalf. Firstly, it was noted that the original Instagram story had been deleted, though some argued that the captor would have made her do so. However, viewers investigating her social media presence discovered that Sai also had a long history of using fundraising sites to pay her various bills. This became a red flag, as many started to see the kidnapping story as merely a publicity stunt to make a quick buck, and would explain the disinterest from law enforcement. Realizing how far the tale had spread, Sai posted a new video to her Instagram simply stating that everything had been blown out of proportion and that she was fine. This unsurprisingly didn't satiate many, as they discredited her statement under suspicion of her being held at gunpoint. One user in response wrote that it looked very forced, and that because of the way she shifted their eyes, they didn't believe it to be genuine. Finally, less than 24 hours after the video went viral, Sai's roommate came forward with confirmation that the entire situation had been fabricated. She wrote, "I just felt bad, but I didn't want to contribute to her lying. I just wanted to be her friend, but as a black trans woman, I can't support her doing this because there's so many people out there who actually need help. I feel like she had this all planned out from the beginning. and she was just using me. Either way, it was all for attention and money, which is the sad part. Upon this revelation, the riled mob turned against Sai, as those who signal boosted the faux abductee's story and donated to her GoFundMe began to criticize the trans Instagram user for exploiting such a sensitive issue. Her friends, including the individual who initially reposted the video to Twitter, were hurt realizing that she effectively used them. The next day, Sai released an apology video where she admitted that while she knew it was wrong from the start, she didn't expect her scheme to be so effective. She then pointed out that upon realizing its spread, she deleted the video and even attempted to rectify her mistake with a follow-up video, only for it to be used as fodder for further speculation. She then shows remorse for her friends who got caught in the crossfire and asks for their forgiveness.
It was definitely a cry for attention. It was desperate. It was wrong, might I add. It was disgusting, and I immediately regretted it because I deleted it 10 minutes later.
This apology was so poorly received that Sai took it down herself the next day, only remaining online through re-uploads. To this very day, it's unknown how much of the tens of thousands of dollars from GoFundMe she was able to keep after taking advantage of the public's goodwill. And there you have what might be the millionth reason not to trust everything you read on Twitter. And with that, I think I'll end the story here. So until next time, thanks for watching.